Mr. Stark, we are rolling.
Okay, let's do this right. Start mark half a meter and back to center.
Copy that, start.
Dummy, look alive. We're on standby for fire safety. You, roll it.
Grip it gentle like you getting into me, you know. Do that.
We're gonna start off nice and easy. We're gonna see 10% thrust capacity, achieve lift. And
3, 2, 1.
So I wanted to do something new with the channel in terms of the content of my reviews and stuff like that, and wanted to diversify my portfolio a little bit, and instead of solely talking about anime, like maybe talk about movies and games and stuff as well, just because like my interest isn't solely restricted to anime and stuff like that. And I figured a good place to start was the Marvel Cinematic Universe, since I personally believe they're on a resurgence with Thunderbolts and with Fantastic Four on the horizon and Avengers and all that stuff. I figured I might as well restart the whole shebang and just watch the shit in order, because after watching this earlier today, I realized I haven't watched this movie since I was 8 years old, so I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. And starting this movie up the bat, the one thing that I didn't remember about Iron Man's character, or about Tony Stark in general, is that this nigga was an asshole. He was just a straight up dickhead, slightly a gangster at the same time too, but it seems like his confidence kind of turned into cockiness with the earlier iterations of his character. And the first scene of the MCU starts off with a Tony Stark Glaze competition, which I mean, understandably so. If I was one of these soldiers, I would have been on the same shit, considering the stats that some of these niggas were pulling up. One of them asked him if it was true that he went 12 for 12 with last year's Maxim cover models. And what does his pimp say in response to that? He said he had a scheduling conflict in March. So basically, to specify, too many money-making meetings to where he was pulling in so many different streams of income where he didn't have any time to set aside for some play, so he wasn't able to take anything down that month. But thank goodness in December the Christmas cover was twins, and he was able to give one of them Tony and one of them Stark. And the jokes that he was letting fly off the bat, that shit wouldn't really, in today's day and age with all of this sensitivity, I feel like some of the jokes he was letting fly, obviously like people like Dave Chappelle say what they say, like comedians, but like in movies, especially Marvel films, with the whole Disney stuff that they have going on, like him talking to her being like, oh God, you're a woman, and then proceeding to flirt with her, talking about how she has sensational bone structure, even though it's very minor and nothing really crazy is going on. Like, that's just his character, that's the bravado to him. I feel like shit like that wouldn't fly today, but this man has so much pull that he has the US Navy sitting here shaking in their boots, scared to speak up and talk to him. And as I felt like what was going to happen, the ship blows up and everything starts going awry, and we see him get friendly fired by his own missile, which then leads to this nigga being held hostage by, I'm just gonna say, some not so friendly folk. And then we go 36 hours back to see how he got into this mess, and we see him supposed to be accepting the MVP award for the season, but instead he's doing what any moneymaker does, and he's out here gambling with 2 fine shots, says 3 and 9 o'clock. And this man was treating these awards like how Jokic probably treats his MVP awards, and gives it to the shawty who was just blowing on his dice. And considering the tension they just had, you know what she's probably doing with that later. I don't need to explain. I don't need to explain what she's doing with that later. But no, this whole movie was dead ass just him or FARMED, and I know that's always been a part of his character, but like seeing him do it in an arrogant and cocky way rather than his later on humanitarian confident way, like it was giving me motivation to go make money. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like, and he's just so witty as a character. It's like he has the right things to say every time, because we see our girl Christine trying to get a post-game interview from him, and she was saying that the streets were calling this nigga the Merchant of Death. And I was like, I swear I heard that before. I had to do some research, and I realized that that was the, not trying to get political, I'm just trying to say I don't know nothing about politics, but that was the Russian arm dealer. And now looking back at it, I think Nico Harrison had something to do with that trade, because there was definitely some unevenness there, but I don't want to conspiracize. And this nigga just started spitting game, and it's like he doesn't stop either. It is really an art, the shit that he was spewing out of his mouth. So he starts breaking down that he's not only the Merchant of Death, but that he's also the seller of health and wealth. And after his whole breakdown, she's like, you ever lose an hour of sleep your whole life? I don't know where she was going with that, and if that was flirtatious, that's besides the point, because he gives her a counter offer instantly, almost like it was instinctual. He said, I'd be prepared to lose a few with you. He damn near got me in that bed with him. That was smooth. And she was eating this nigga up. And I don't blame him for pulling that one out either, because seeing Christine in the formal attire, she was a formal attired bunny. That is a dangerous specimen. So I mean, if you caught me on a day where I was confident and I was just firing shots, I would have pulled that same shit out. With the way she was going at him, it was almost like this was a planned attack and that she wanted this to happen. And so we see her doing her little walk of shame, and she was kind of throwing shots at Pepper, talking about how after all these years, Tony's still having her pick up the dry cleaning and stuff like that. But she's also the one who just mauled him in his bedroom and is now walking through his house in an oversized shirt and Victoria's Secret cheeksters. So I mean, who's really the winner here? Like, Pepper's in this for the long run. And it's like, going into this, I completely forgot that they eventually become lovers and stuff like that, which makes perfect sense. But that's how you know I'm so like disconnected from the MCU in general. And I'd say the development of their relationship is definitely the highlight of this movie to me personally, as well as his assembling of the suit. And we start to build on that suit development when we eventually get to where we started the movie, which was out in like Afghanistan or so. I don't remember where they said. And we see this man hop in his PJ. And from the private jets I guess this shows the difference between my income and Tony Stark's, because in the private jets that I get on pretty frequently, I'd say they maybe have like 12 to 24 seats in them. You know, one pilot, one flight attendant, that's it. But the plane that this nigga gets on is like a commercial airline. Like, this is a Delta jet basically that he gets on, with a whole ass strip club in there. So this is what those Delta Sky Miles can get you, that they always try to get me to sign up for. So I think I'll reconsider and look into that. But he's basically just showing off his artillery, blowing up mountains, hitting a Crollo pose, trying to ore farm, which is like, I definitely understand. But then he lost some points with this little stumble here. And then we're brought back to where this movie started, where he got hoodwinked. And this man woke up like he was strung up to a jigsaw trap. And this nigga cooking chum bucket chum next to him. So, I mean, this is a nightmare. But this chum cooker is actually an ally to him and was keeping him alive in hopes to try and get him out of here. Where our perpetrators then bust in the room, speaking in Arabic. So, I mean, I could translate the best I can. They basically said, "What's up, y'all boys? We're dumb as rocks." And not even the nice, smooth type of rocks either. We're the rough, rigged, ugly ones. But these rocks need some missiles. So, Mr. Stark, what I'm going to need you to do for us is build those missiles that you were just presenting to your boys not too long ago. And don't try anything funny, because we've got this place littered with cameras. And we're going to be watching you eat, sleep, and most importantly, even during goon hours. So don't try doing anything like escape, because that shit is not happening on our watch. And it was looking like to me that their watch was broken, because that's actually exactly what they did. We see him get cordial with Yinsen, and they start collaborating to make him a new reactor first. And his kidnappers are so stupid. He could have been digging a tunnel downwards to escape like Michael Schofield, and they would have still probably thought he was just building space for the missile or some shit. I don't even know. And the only person with any sense in this little operation was the brown Mr. Clean. And he can actually see that these dudes are working on a more complex version of the hammer that the doctor usually uses to test your knee reflexes, and starts threatening our other scientist with a piece of hot burning charcoal. And he's trying to force this man to eat it, which would probably make the nigga spontaneously combust, to where then Tony saves his life and gets tasked to build this shit by tomorrow or else. And that or else part, I never understood that with these niggas in these movies and shows in general, because I'm sitting here thinking, or else what? Like, you're gonna take me out? Okay, and then here comes an F-80 fighter jet dropping a napalm strike on this whole establishment. Like, I think I would have the upper hand here, if anything, if I'm Tony. And it's like, obviously he cares about his life, as I would. Like, I'm not saying I would be giving them a counter offer with confidence or a counter rebuttal with confidence. Like, I wouldn't. Like, I would be just as scared, and I would probably attempt to make an Iron Man suit in the same way and try to escape. But like, realistically, Tony has the upper hand here, and he should be the one making the threats. Like, bring me a Dr. Pepper cream soda 12-pack or else this missile is not getting built. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I would make this shit ridiculously unreasonable. Like, bring me any item off the Burger King menu and make it taste good. And you know, once I pull that one out the bag, that missile's never getting built, because they'd be scrambling for eons trying to find something from there that'll satisfy my palate. But this shit turns him up, and then we get this iconic scene where he's banging his hammer like the blacksmith from Elden Ring. Lay out your arms. And I don't know if it's just how these older movies are, but there is like something about this suit building sequence when they get to the end portion where they're kind of up against time, and Yinsen is kind of racing against the clock, where the interactions they're having just feel a bit more like real. I really don't know how to explain it, but I just think the acting in this movie in general, it was just great. But Yinsen realizes they don't have enough time, and he tries to go buy them some, which you can't, by the way. There's no monetary value that you could put on time. That's priceless. So fellas, if you have that crush, shoot your shot. Doesn't matter if you're chopped or not. No one's really even chopped like that. We're all the same on the inside. But let me not make myself cry really quick. But no, so he starts shooting bullets in every direction but at the enemy, and for some reason they're running. So I mean, he's just a dog. But Yin eventually gets cornered 20v1. And unfortunately for him, this was not a Sidemen video. So I think we know the outcome for him. But we see him finally get the suit up and running. He makes his way out. He's absolutely obliterating everyone and everything in his path, to where he then makes it to Yinsen and Caramel Clean and shoots a missile at him, to where then the rocks topple all on top of him. So I'm thinking he's deceased now. I thought he was done here. But him and Yinsen have a moment where Stark's telling him to get to his family. But then Yin tells us that his family's been dead, and that now he's going to see them, even though earlier he was like, oh, I'm going to see them. So this was his intentions all along. It was a sad little scene, but it was a really good scene at that. So then he goes outside and he's getting unloaded on, and the nigga starts unleashing an inferno on the whole place. But the part I didn't understand is when mid-human torch ult, when this nigga gets on the LMG and starts unloading on him, I'm not understanding how those bullets are not penetrating this thing. It's like, I understand, yes, he is the Iron Man, and maybe I never finished my chemistry degree for the right reasons, but from my prior knowledge of the elements in the periodic table with iron, it's like I feel like such heavy artillery should have penetrated this man at least one time. And it's like, yes, the shit knocked him, but it was only for like 3 seconds, and then he proceeds to fly away, which was tough. It was a hard scene altogether, but I just don't understand how he didn't get more injured than he did. And we see him walking out in that desert like it's Dune, eventually getting saved by his boy in the military and stuff like that. And as he's getting out of this GTA cargo ship, guess who's the first person waiting there for him? Scotch Bonnet Pepper. And it's like, it's as this movie's progressing, I can see how much of a ride or die she is for him. But she's just sitting there waiting for him, concerned for his health. And they hop in the whip and he says, first place he needs to go is Burger King. Am I a fan of that choice? Not really. Now, granted, I'm not a huge fast food burger eater. Like if I'm eating a burger, I'm sitting down at a restaurant or I'm sitting down at the edge of my bed. If you know, you know. But out of all the places, I'm just not, Burger King is not the first choice. But I mean, he's Tony Stark, who am I to speak? But he first goes there, and then next he calls to have an assembly so he can make an announcement. And as he's about to get started, we see Agent Phil Coulson talking about how he's from the Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement, Logistics, Statistics, and Cryptic Ballistic Monotheistic Paralympic Division, in short, SHIELD. And I didn't even understand that until like halfway through the movie, that was like Nick Fury's organization or whatever. So that was cool to see them introduced here too for the first time. But he basically comes to the conclusion that he's going to shut down his weapons manufacturer division in his company, which sparks outrage and everyone's going ballistic. And from the moment they had this interview, I already knew that this bald brother here was bad news, especially when they started talking about the arc reactor afterwards and he was puffing on that big girthy thing. But he basically just tells Tony to lay low until he get the situation under control, which is quite the opposite of what he did actually.
Weapons!
Pepper, how big are those booty cheeks, girl?
What?
And we see her switch out his core and they get pretty intimate. She has his splooge all over his hands and stuff like that. And he's talking about how he doesn't have anyone but her. And that's where I could see this relationship blossoming. And it was a beautiful thing. And then while that's happening, we also see that Caramel Clean survived the impossible and is assembling the parts from his Mark 1, which is clearly going to come back up later in the movie. And yeah, so we see him making the Mark 2 suit, which is this nice, sleek silver version, which I didn't remember looking this good. And he goes to take it out for a test spin, blasting through the air like a fucking missile. And if I was at Santa Monica Park here, if I saw him soaring full speed, I would have thought we were done, man. I would think that's it. But he just started trying to break some Guinness World Records for no reason at all. But I mean, when you're that confident in your craft, you do whatever the fuck you want to do. But this is where we see a component of the suit that comes up later on in the movie, but not thinking back at it, I'm pretty sure they called back to this in the later movies like Infinity War Saga. And maybe I'm tweaking, but what I'm referring to is the ice buildup here, where his shit just starts malfunctioning and he has to deploy his glider. But no, just seeing him experiment with the suit here and like the pure joy coming from him as he's like breaking the barriers of science basically and doing new shit. It was a great thing to see from his characters because the Tony Stark that I know, he's not even surprised at the shit he does anymore. So that was just great to see again. We see him bust through the roof of his house as he lands with a little gift from our girl PP. And this is what I'm talking about with their love story. Again, it's like I didn't appreciate these movies as like an 8-year-old. So just seeing her like gift this to him here when she's literally just an assistant and they don't even have that relationship tension like that yet. Like it's really, this is genuinely just like a pure love for her boss and a pure respect for him, which was really wholesome to see her taking the original core and then getting the proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Like that, I damn near start crying. I'm not even gonna lie. Like if I was him in that situation, fuck Iron Man, nigga. I would have been a married man. I would have been straight to Kay's jeweler.
Connect to the Cisco, have it reconfigure the shell metals, use the gold titanium alloy from the Seraphim tactical satellite. That should ensure fuselage integrity while maintaining power to weight ratio. Got it?
I'm gonna have to since I'm a real product, sir. If I was a real walking living thing, if I heard you say some nerdy, dirty, dopey thing like that, me wanna give you a blasphemous wedgie, let me tell you, stuff you not lock.
But no, so we see him making the Mark III, which is the first red version of the suit, while at the same time, Corrupted Clean found all the parts to his original suit, so they're clearly going to have a suit clash soon enough, or at least I thought. But before that, we get taken to the party that they were talking about on his TV, saying that he would be too scared to show up, basically. So you know he had to pull up in the R8 with one of the first Stanley cameos out of many, where he's got 2 cougars by his side. Stan the Man Lee, I knew he was walking like this. I'm not surprised one bit. But no, so he goes inside and we see our girl Peppa Pet with some pep in her step, looking like a Scotch bonnet Pepper, you know. Where he then asks her to dance, and they share their first like intimate moment for real. And they're out here, 73 degrees, perfect weather, on the balcony, staring at each other's eyes. And she's explaining basically what just went down, how it'd be weird if people were to see them, knowing his status and knowing who she is and blah, blah, blah. And remember, she's the one that's talking about how it's weird now. But then she starts leaning forward, foaming out the mouth, and you could literally hear dripping on the floor. I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Like, and she was getting ready to give him some of that jalapeno sauce that you get at Taco Bell in the quesadillas. And he may not have called himself Iron Man yet, but I already knew that that's the name he was assuming when I heard the clank of metal in his pants after she hit this maneuver on him. And I think this was intentional. This was a pivotal Pepper play here. Him smelling her breath and everything, talking about I would like a drink. And I know that nigga was flustered only because I also was. And as he goes inside, thinking about the moment just now, and we see our girl again. What was her name? Cameron? It doesn't even matter. He's moving on to better and spicier things now. And then she's coming around trying to keep herself in the loop. Like, go take your oversized t-shirt elsewhere, shawty. We're not doing this anymore. But no, so we learn here that his company, quote unquote, has been sending artillery to the group out there again, and they're causing calamity. And then we find out, not to anyone's surprise, that this bald-headed freak was the one behind all the hogwash. So what does Tony do in response to that? Of course, what any man in their right mind would do. And he spun the block on these idiots and started maximum pulsing all over the place. This nigga was operating like he knew exactly where the camera was. Look at this. Shoots the shit, gives it a second to charge up, and starts walking away in the manner he did, just so I could get the thumbnail to this. And he was going so ballistic that the US military thought he was a UFO, and they were chasing that nigga down relentlessly, until he eventually had to come clean to his boy and spill the beans.
Hello?
Hey, bro, watch your jet. Watch your jet, bro. Watch your jet!
But no, and it was after this where we see our boy Olga, I don't remember his name, start with an O, where we see our boy Ocipitalo meet up with corrupt Mr. Clean to find out that he's been working with him the whole time and that he put out the hit on Tony. And he then scams Mr. Clean, paralyzes the dude, takes out all of his guys, and then robs him of everything he has. So in a matter of 10 seconds, Mr. Cream's world was turned upside down. And that's what he gets for trying to negotiate with a guy that looks like this. And we see that Pepper also finds this out when Tony sends her to go steal his information back, where we see that Orange is making what looks to be a girthier suit and a taller suit. But then we also see the live leak of when he had Tony captured.
Octopus, you did not tell us that the target you paid us to kill was the great Tony Stark. As you can see, Obadiah saying, you've deceived us. And the price to kill Tony Stark has just gone up. Just like my dad, thinking about this money coming in.
And when we see Obadiah come in the room, I'm thinking he knows exactly what's up here and that he knew that she was going to come and be trying to steal information and everything like that, but he was completely oblivious. Damn near trying to flirt with Scotch Bonnet here, making me uncomfortable. I just didn't like how close I could smell his breath through the screen.
And she dips out quick and he sits down and sees that he's been tricked, and that shit has him so discombobulated that he's pushing back hair that he hasn't had for 20 years. Like, I don't even know how he didn't find her suspicious at first. Maybe it's just because I've been deceived and tricked so many times in my lifetime that I could like see these things. And also I know the plot of the movie watching it, but I don't know. I feel like if I was in orangutan's position, I would just like, I could sense the vibes.
But we see her walking down the stairs in her red bottoms, and Mr. Shield is sitting on the massage chair, and she gives him the rundown of what's been going on with Obadiah. So then he starts crashing out on his science team, to where William then keeps this shit 100% cash money with him and lets him know this.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not Tony Stark.
And he's damn right about that. So then what does Orangutan proceed to do? Break and enter. A felony. And not only does he break and enter, he also robs this nigga of his heart. Basically, he basically just stole his organs and just leaves his ass there to then start scrambling and scraping through his house, trying to get to his other core, which thank goodness she didn't throw out, by the way, because if she did, this man was grits. So again, this would have been another one of those moments where after everything's said and done, I'm buying the ring and marrying this woman. And no, so this final little showdown is starting up, and Bell Pepper is bringing Shield up into the laboratory where he's scheming. And we see Tony head out with his boy looking at his other suit, talking about next time. So I'm pretty sure he suits up in Iron Man 2. If my memory serves me right, I'm pretty sure that's what happens. So he's coming in hot, and Orange Justice is now trying to take out Lemon Pepper Stepper. And if Tony Stark didn't make it here on time, I would have somehow made it there myself. and he gives him a Spear of Doom, and they start boxing it out. Iron Menace is picking up the family of 4 for no reason at all. He could have just bashed Tony's head in, but he's just causing more destruction because he's just that type of nigga. Like, we knew what we were gonna be getting with him, as I said. And he starts giving Tony the conquest treatment, the way he's hoisting him up and stomping his ass out. But I knew as soon as Tony had like 19% left in his tank and he was about to start flying up that he was gonna use that ice thing earlier to his advantage. And that was a cool ass scene to see, and I thought genuinely that would have taken Iron Menace out, but it was just buying some time. And Iron Menace realistically could have won this battle right here. He could have, if he knew how to aim a damn gun. And now granted, he is in a massive suit of armor here, but I mean, the way he was handling this just showed you that he was not well equipped mentally or physically for this job, because he tried shooting a missile at him and this nigga's shooting 50 degrees to the left, and he tries it again and he damn near sends the next one into the sky. And it would be one thing if Tony was on like the next building over. This nigga's about a solid 20 feet away from him, and he shoots another one. He's 0 for 3. He was shooting like Russell Westbrook from the arc. This was an egregious performance to where Jalapeno Pepper has enough time to hit the capacitor thingy, and this nigga gets sent to Asgard and gets the job done.
And I mean, at this point, this movie should have just been called From Pimp to Simp, Pepper Potts' hot and transformative story on how to turn your boss into your bitch. And that's not to say that Tony Stark is a bitch in any way, because he's a hard-ass dude, gangster even. But I just know if I was in his position and I had this woman jumping through hoops doing what she did to save my life, I would be kissing the ground that she walks on. That kind of brings in that bitch part of it, because others would perceive me in that manner. But I don't give a fuck, because this is the love of my life. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I feel like that just makes sense.
And we see her fixing him up before he goes out to the press. And that tension is there again, getting my chest all tight. As he's sitting here talking about, girl, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been thinking about our situation and that tension we had the other night. And I'm just trying to make you feel this iron, man. You know, so that's basically how the movie ends. And he does say, I am Iron Man, but not to her, not yet at least. No, I mean, I think them ending it in that way was like a very solid and strong start to the MCU that I really liked, because I like as they were building up to him saying that, I could see it coming, but I just didn't remember it because again, it's like I'm basically watching this shit for the first time again. And then seeing that end credit scene with Nick Fury being in his house for whatever reason, saying that this is the start of the Avengers initiative. Such a good way to kick the shit off. But no, so I'm pretty sure next in line is Hulk, I think, in terms of release order. And I'm gonna get to that ASAP. If I had to give this movie a rating, I would say Iron Man 1 is like, I enjoyed the fact that they had the whole first half of him building the Mark 1 in that story, and then the whole second half of like trying to acquire the power and do whatever. So I mean, I think it was like an 8. It was good, and I just enjoyed seeing his character from how like semi-arrogant he was at first to now him being a little bit more down to earth and trying to do things the right way and do things for the betterment of the people, and him showing that heart that Pepper was emphasizing. I really like that. So yeah, I'd say 8 out of 10. If y'all liked this new content, I know it's a very similar video style, but just obviously what I'm talking about is a little bit different. If y'all like this, I mean, subscribe if you're new, and just let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the second channel too. Road to 100K on here. I appreciate y'all for watching, and without further ado, on to the next one. And yeah, that's it.